Hey yo, I am the star in any room that I stand in. I am the standout, you just my stand-in. These bitches copy my homework, that's what they hand in. That's why I'm private like the airports I land in. Life is a beach house, don't let the sand in. I ball in any arena, go let the fans in.
If you want black women to stop changing their nose and getting nose jobs, then you
What's up, y'all? I hope all is well. So in this video, I want to respond to people dragging Glorilla for allegedly getting a nose job or some type of cosmetic surgery on her nose. So I found the situation to be real funny. And typically I wouldn't probably have talked about this, but funny enough, I found a connection between this situation and how people were reacting to the Times Square statue of a black woman recently. And what I took away from both of those situations and what made me think in both of those situations is that the common theme here to me is that we can focus on black women, but generally black people. But in this video, I'm going to comment on specifically black women's reaction because black women were the most vocal and I heard them speaking the most about the Glorilla situation. Interestingly enough, it was mostly black women that were the most vocal about how they felt about Glorilla allegedly getting some work done. I say allegedly because it's very slight, so maybe she got a little some shaved down or some plumped up. I don't know. It's not really a big deal to me. I mean, it's not a huge difference, so I don't really understand all the outrage about it. So I feel like it's fake outrage, as many of these things tend to be. Just like with the statue, I feel like it was fake outrage. I feel like a lot of these situations are just the internet rage baiting the public into reacting strongly about a black woman being represented in the media. And it's just weird to me how black women evoke such a strong reaction out of people in American culture. It's just weird. Like the fact that y'all really just drug a whole statue for damn near 2 weeks, and now y'all are tweaking out about Glorilla allegedly getting some nose tweaks that damn near, I would say, 60 to 70% of celebrities get. I don't see why it's such a huge deal that Glorilla got it, considering that it's not even a huge difference. So yeah, and anyway, the point of why I'm making this commentary is because people do not really care about whether Glorilla got a nose job or not, because y'all do not like normal looking black women. Y'all don't even value that.
I would also appreciate if you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are not already and the content resonates with you. Welcome, as well as making sure you hit the bell for notifications so you'll be informed every time I upload a new video or go live. I'd also encourage you to check out my Patreon, where you can access old and exclusive content, as well as having early access to new uploads. That will be linked in the description.
Y'all don't value the average looking black women, just around the way woman. So I find it just really funny that now Glorilla, who is a very norm medium looking black women, and I think that that's good. I'm not saying that in a negative way, because this is the weird thing, and it shows that y'all really just exposed yourselves with the whole statue situation. Because I feel like I read that someone said that the artist's whole point about making that statue is that he strives to represent the average everyday person in his artwork, because that's a person who's often overlooked. And one of the messages that he wanted people to take away is that black women don't have to be extraordinary or above average or doing something amazing or the most beautiful or the most sexy or whatever to get attention and validation. Black women can exist as just normal everyday people and still be praised and celebrated and get a statue and get a monument. You know what I mean? You don't have to be an old white man who colonized the whole continent in order to get a statue, or you don't have to be somebody who did all this education and did all this work and, you know, or is very beautiful and is, you know, whatever you're known for. You know, generally black women are only exemplified when we're considered spectacular or amazing in a certain area in different ways. It's not just physically or an attractiveness, but also think about in education, in politics, think about accomplishments. You know, there's so many black women that were in the civil rights movement or in, you know, science and everything that don't get attention because they say, okay, well, we're only going to give attention to 3 or 4 and those people have to be spectacular. You know what I mean? And so that's no shame or hate towards the women that are getting exemplified for being spectacular or being super beautiful or whatever it is. It's just saying the whole point of his artwork was saying that everyday people should still be elevated. That's all he was trying to say, or still be praised. You don't only have to be spectacular. There's a whole American context that goes into that with, you know, people, especially black people, only being valued based on what they can contribute, not just as people. You know, that's a consistent concept in our culture. So I think that that's what it was, and it's like what his point was and what he was trying to show, and it wasn't even really a big deal. She just looked like a regular everyday person. And the fact that black people, but mostly black women, but I did see a lot of black men saying very negative things about the statue as well, and I'm gonna get to Glorilla, don't get me wrong. But the fact that so many black women just dragged the fuck out the statue and was all like, oh well, she looks gross and she's obese and she has an attitude and she's a mammy, da 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 da, and basically just projecting all of this internalized misogyny onto a hunk of mixed metals. Like, it just exposed so much about how black women do view the average everyday woman. And so it's like, and then for the fact that people are getting offended and being like, oh, well, who cares if they're saying that she looks like she could be anybody? Like, they're promoting obesity and, you know, I couldn't even, like, there were so many bad takes that I couldn't even keep up with, but that was something that I saw a lot, or people saying, oh, she's just, they're making a mockery because they're pulling off stereotypes. And it's like, that also shows that whenever black people don't like something, they won't even do research about who created it, who commissioned it, who funded it, where the project came from, what was the moral of the art project, whatever. They won't do no research. They just react off what they see on the internet. And this is basically the whole point of what I've been trying to say on my channel the whole time. People just look at the optics of a situation. They just look at what they see directly in front of them. They don't take into account who's behind the camera, who's producing stuff, who's doing the casting, all of that stuff. They don't take that into account, but they drag the person that they see in front of them, which is usually the physical representation of that black woman, whether it be this more overweight woman that was the statue, or it be a light-skinned woman that's being represented in a show, and then they're dragging her and then saying, oh, white people always trying to push colorism, white people always trying to favor light-skinned people, blah blah blah. That whole time you look at the producers and the whole casting group, and it's all a bunch of black men, but they dragging the light-skinned woman. You know what I mean? Like, this is a thing that constantly happens. So the black women always become the scapegoat, and we always end up being attacked because people don't like this representation of a black woman, because there's no proper way to clearly be a black woman in this country. And it's really not non-black people putting that pressure onto black women. It's really the black community, because y'all don't like black women in general. Y'all really don't like women in general, but y'all definitely do not like black women. And so if she's not spectacular or super beautiful or super smart, or she's not a useful idiot for the community, and she's not a black man worshiper, y'all don't see any value in her. So you're irritated that you're even having to see her represented, because you need to be happy you're even being tolerated. So if you're not sexy, or you can't help nobody, or you're not a mammy, or you're not going to take care of nobody's kids or cape for black males, you're of no use. So why should you get a statue in Times Square? Who are you? You ain't ish. You ain't nobody. You not effable, so I don't care about what you got going on. You shouldn't be represented. You get what I mean? So y'all just dragged a statue for 2 weeks. Like, and let's be real here. Let's also talk about how Glorilla as a black woman represents a lot of the things, 90% things that y'all drag all day, that y'all hate, that y'all say is the downfall of black civilization. Y'all will overlook a bunch of killers and misogynists and weirdos and sexual deviants and criminals that are in hip hop. Y'all will overlook them and complain about black women rappers like Glorilla and Megan Thee Stallion and Sexy Red. Now 𝙀𝙀, who ain't bothering nobody. Y'all are weird. So Glorilla and how she manifests her black womanhood is everything y'all do not like. Okay. But because her music is hard, and also because she also wasn't seen as a threat before in certain ways, and I'm not even going to get too deep into that, but if you know what I mean, you know, because she wasn't viewed as a threat to certain people despite being light skinned or whatever, because of certain reasons, she wasn't viewed as a threat like somebody like Ice Spice in the same way, because there's a lot of intersectionality between that, and people don't want to talk about that. So when they talk about, oh, light skin privilege, that's another reason why I don't I just disregard those notions, because it's like, yeah, but y'all also treat different light skinned people differently. Y'all play division and divide games. Y'all will accept certain people and y'all won't. Y'all will kick people out and bring people in based on their political views or them being a black man worshiper or whatever it is. So that, even that light skin privilege notion is not even consistent across the board, and we can even see that with this whole Glorilla situation. And there's there are elements of featurism and texturism and all that, those types of weird intersections with that. But anyway, Glorilla manifests every form of black womanhood y'all don't like, but y'all tolerated her for a period of time, which is usually what happens with all of these black women celebrities. Y'all will tolerate them for 18 months. Y'all will hype them up because you like their song, or before you see them as a sexual threat to you because of black males. Then everything is fine. Y'all will support them at first, but the minute they do something that rubs people the wrong way, or that y'all feel like is embarrassing for whatever reason, or I just feel like some of this stuff even be bots. I don't even feel like all the time these are actual people who start this viral stuff. I feel like a lot of this shit be started by bots, and then real people react to it and they do shit to push it in the algorithm, because it's not a huge deal. Most people wouldn't even really notice if she had got work done or not. I'm not going to say no names, but she's not the first female rapper in her generation that's gotten work done on their face, and it wasn't seen as such a big deal. Yeah, people did bring it up, and they did like put the petty comparison pictures and everything, but I don't understand why people got so triggered when it came to Glorilla. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I feel like people got really triggered because Glorilla was viewed as a light-skinned woman that's quote-unquote safe, because there are certain light-skinned people that they will spare from certain notions or stereotypes and social attacks because they view them as either under their thumb or as not a threat, like I said. But the minute they do become a threat by fixing their teeth, getting a little pinchy pinch on their nose, a BBL, whatever it may be, oh, now it's a problem. Oh, now you embarrassing black women. But I'm just saying, like, it never gave to me that y'all cared or gave a rat's ass about Glorilla maybe having internalized featurism or whatever the case may be. It never gave that to me when I was listening to these takes. It just gave, honestly, a bunch of people who are hating because they can't do something, or they don't feel comfortable in what they got going on, or wish that they could do certain tweaks or whatever. Those are a lot of the people that were talking and giving their POVs on Glorilla's nose job. It didn't even come off as genuine to me. The other group of people that I saw that was saying stuff were also the people who project their social justice warrior beliefs onto other black women, and they feel like, well, I believe this, or this is how I feel like black womanhood should be presented, so now I'm going to project my beliefs onto you. You cannot hold other people to your expectations or beliefs or acceptable presentations of womanhood. And I feel like that mentality comes from Christianity, and also the hyper collectivization that happens here in the United States. Like, me personally, I am a lot happier and a lot more confident in my life because I don't feel like the actions or beliefs of other women in my groups or that look like me reflect onto me. I don't feel like that automatically we're not attached to the hip. Like, I'm my own person. We're not a monolith. So if she over there saying something I don't agree with or that I think is weird or whatever, okay, we can address that later, but I'm not gonna feel like, oh my gosh, how can you, as as a light-skinned woman, how can you say that and make us look like this? As a black woman, how can you make us look like this by saying that or doing that? Oh my gosh, we have such hate, self-hate, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not that deep. Like, it just was never that serious. But I feel like that stuff comes from Christianity, because I feel like a lot of Christian people are very, like, they project their worldview onto people and try to, like, get them to live by these standards. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing when it comes to being a black woman on social media. Like, you always got these takes from other black women talking about what people are doing with their presentation or how they twerking or wearing a bonnet. Like, who gives a fuck? I don't that has nothing to do with me. I know I got my shit together and I know how I look. I know I got my red lipstick on. So honestly, keep wearing your bonnet, because that means more quality people and relationships for me to create. You can continue to walk around in your bonnet and keep having the same outcomes. I'm gonna be over here in my expensive perfume, nice natural hair and lipstick. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna police you. I don't have time to sit around and worry about what other adults are doing. But anyway, so let's go back to talking about featurism amongst light-skinned people, because I have noticed that this is definitely a thing. And I don't mean interpersonal, like between light-skinned people projecting onto each other. I mean basically featurism that's projected towards light-skinned people. And I want to be very clear that this affects all black people of all skin tones and shades, no matter where you're from. This is a thing. It's not as widely talked about. I think because it's not as obvious as colorism, and it's not as, I don't know. I feel like colorism is a whole different ball game. But it is a thing, and it's a thing to the point where in the past, years ago, I asked your old light skinned family members about this. There used to be a term called a waste of light skin, and basically that term, I heard it about people who had natural hair, right? Or who had like what was not considered quote unquote good hair, because as I talked about in my North Africans and braids video, please go check that out if you have not. I was talking about how there's a huge association between skin tone and hair textures in the black community, and it's an ignorant assumption because there's no correlation scientifically between the two. But anyway, the same issue occurs when it comes to featurism. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. I haven't really had many experiences with featurism in my life. I never thought about my features or anything, or even in my family, so it's not really a thing, but I know that it exists. So I knew about the whole waste of light skin term from the whole basically texturism, but it's a huge thing with featurism too, and I feel like honestly it's more so associated with featurism when it comes to light-skinned people. And what old people would mean when they say that was basically light-skinned people who did not have either a mixture of African and European or indigenous features, who either didn't have mixed features or who had very African features, and the associations that came with that. Because my personal theory is that the anti-dark skin sentiments, the texturism, the featurism, all of that stems from anti-African sentiments. So if you have a light-skinned person who has, broad features, African features, and you're probably going to have type 4 hair also, you being light-skinned does not save you from anti-blackness and anti-African sentiments when you live in a society that was literally enslaving whole ass white people because they had a great-great-grandparent that was black. That's how deep the anti-blackness went in this society. And that's why, again, I don't believe in light-skin privilege, because when you have anti-blackness that deeply rooted, to think that somebody who has Glorilla skin tone, all of that anti-blackness and misogyny is going to just be washed away because she's high yellow is ridiculous. So that's another reason why I'm going to be honest with you. I also find the light skin privilege notion to be also harmful to light skin people, because we all don't look the same. We all don't have the same features. We all don't have the same racial backgrounds. You can have somebody who's 90% African that's lighter than somebody that's 45% African. You know what I mean? You can have somebody who has a white parent who is less mixed looking than somebody who technically has two black parents. You know what I mean? Like it's too much overlap and intersection with that, especially for how prevalent texturism and featurism is, and the fact that we all are different shades. There are light-skinned people who are darker than other light-skinned people. Not every light-skinned person is the same. So these narratives don't even make sense, and they really are a silencing tactic and a way to put light-skinned people in a empathetic and social chokehold. And that's why I'm also trying to explain to other light-skinned people, I understand you're saying that because you're trying to help, and you think you're saying what you should be saying and saying something that is truthful. But yeah, basically just form an opinion based on your lived experiences and what you observe. You don't have to just believe what other black people are telling you to say or how things are. You know what I mean? Because not everybody has walked in your shoes. We all live different way. We all look different ways. We all have different ethnicities. We all live in different regions. There's no one size fits all for any of these conversations, and nobody's perspective is incorrect. You know what I mean? We all are living our own truth based on how life is for us. But anyway, I'm just making that point because it just shows that featurism and texturism was so prevalent and so penetrative in the black community that they had an entire term called a waste of light skin. And I noticed terms like this are not used anymore, and a lot of these very nasty old-fashioned like tropes or badgering terms towards light-skinned people are not used anymore because they're very outdated, which is good because they harm everybody. But at the same time, now there's been this change of the narrative where they're like kind of rewriting history, making it seem like none of those things ever existed and that everybody was just living their best life simply because they're, lighter than a paper bag. And it's like, that's not how life works. You know what I mean? So I think it's good that we're not using those types of terms anymore. But I just thought that it was really interesting that Glorilla was being dragged for the nose job and everything. And, you know, people were like, oh my gosh, how could she possibly do that? And why would she, you know, even go there? And it's like, because featurism is extremely prevalent and it's real, because the problem is that people don't like anything associated with Africa. They don't care how light it is. If it gives me any type of memory to Africa or any type of association with being a person of African descent, that's not what I want to see. That's not attractive to me. And it's the same thing with the statue. If it looks too familiar, if it looks too close to what is the median, the norm of the Black community, it's not considered spectacular. So for people to try to turn around and be like, oh my gosh, why would Glorilla change her nose when there was terms like a waste of light skin for a reason? Well, that's why she would change her nose. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, but I do feel like it was bots or some shit that also made it a huge deal, because it's very slight. Like, one huge issue I have with the way that the light skin experience is discussed on social media today, and I even feel like there's a difference between like how like millennials and us would talk about it like on Facebook and like on Vine, and like the like bitches be like memes and stuff like that. Like, that was ignorant in itself then, but I feel like before, like, it wasn't healthy, but it was just kind of jokes. Like, it was just kind of like he hoo hoos, you know what I mean? Like, now they're really trying to rewrite history. Like, simply being a certain skin tone or lighter than automatically makes everything easier and better for you, and I feel like that's harmful for both groups. And I also feel like they are a lot of light-skinned Black people and mixed people who are gaslighting themselves about how stuff really was for them, just because they don't want to go against the grain, or they don't want to seem like they're trying to diminish other people's experiences, or they've been shamed into only running with one script. So that's how I feel like it is. But it just irritates me that on social media y'all act like every single light-skinned person has the experience of like India Westbrook. Like, the way that people talk on social media, you would think everybody has the experience of India Westbrook, literally, or was like some type of Instagram baddie. And mind you, this is coming from somebody who doesn't look too far off from the Instagram baddie aesthetic. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have that look. Like, y'all can see how I look in my my intro. Like, you know, I definitely meet that, you know, that quote unquote standard of beauty in the Black community. That's not my words, but that's what I hear people saying. So I definitely I can see both sides of it. But I've also, like I said, I've dealt with like texturism from Black people. You know, I've dealt with colorism from Hispanic people. So it's like I could kind of see both sides, even though I look in that way. But when it comes to terms like a waste of light skin and how terms like that are not used anymore, I feel like that should be just because like the light skin experience has kind of been it's kind of been like monotheized. Like, it's kind of been like, yeah, it's like a very monolithic experience that we use. And I think it's also harmful because y'all are still pushing this narrative that the light skinned long hair girl is the quote unquote like the pretty girl or the cute girl, the only one who's, you know, getting picked on because of how they look. And, you know, that light skinned women are crying because we're saying that everybody hated on us because of our skin tone and things like that. And it's like, it's harmful to both groups because, number one, it trivializes what light skinned people actually go through, and it makes it a mockery of that, because shit be way more complicated than people hating on you because they think you're cute, because not every light skinned chick is cute anyway. You could be butt ugly and people will still antagonize you for whatever reason, and I'm gonna get into that in a second. So just because somebody was light skinned and being picked on does not mean that they were automatically cute. An excellent example of this was Tiny. People have always antagonized Tiny about her looks, and back in the day, the late 90s, early 2000s, they were Black men and Black women who would say that Tiny, I've heard it with my own ears, that Tiny was a waste of light skin. And they would talk about Tiny's looks, and they would make fun of T.I. for getting with Tiny. And then when Tiny started doing all these face augmentations and getting blue contacts and all of that stuff, now all of a sudden Black people want to turn around and be like, oh my gosh, she looks crazy, why would she do all that work done? Oh my god, why would her and Zonique get contacts, whoop-de-whoop? Because that was a huge controversy back in the day. But yeah, Black people talked about Tiny's looks like a dog even before she got all that surgery. And if you look at Tiny back in the day, she looked like a regular around the way, you know, biracial or Black girl from the hood that was just light skinned. You know what I mean? She looked like anybody who lived in your neighborhood. And people think that if you use the word average or normal or median, and that's why I was trying to use alternative words than average, because these insecure people have made an a negative association with it when there's nothing negative about being average or being the median. You know what I mean? Most people pride themselves on being the standard look of their culture. It's only amongst black people where we only get gassed up if we feel like we have one leg up on the look of another black person. That shit is weird. I'm not gonna say there's not colorism in other groups. I'm just saying a lot of other groups of people, they pride themselves on having a look, a standard of how they present as a group. It's black people who only want to present the super sexy, flexy, either super dark, super light, super slick features or whatever it is, loose hair. That's not the average at all. Not just, oh, I'm going to present a very attractive African American person. No, they want to present a person who doesn't look like the average person at all. Because you can find a person who's a very attractive, around the way, pretty girl. For example, Bernice Burgos. To me, she looks like a regular girl. You could find her in any neighborhood. She could relate to basically any ethnicity of black. She don't got a bunch of crazy, face augmentations, things like that. And she just a pretty around the way girl. You know what I mean? She, to me, has an average look. And when I mean average, I mean as though she is somebody who you can relate to. That's what I mean. She don't look like somebody who's an AI image created on Instagram, to get thirsty guys to click on their OnlyFans link. That's not, you get what I mean? And that's what we see a lot of today. There's not just a lot of just around the way looking people. So anyway, Tiny, to me, back in the day, she was not unattractive. She just, she looked like a regular around the way girl. But also, because there are certain pressures about how light-skinned women should look, I feel like that kind of played into why Tiny was treated like that also. And think about it, this was still the era of the whole a waste of light skin mentality. So anyway, time goes on, you go into the 2010s, whatever, Tiny starts getting work. Now people want to start dragging her and talking shit about her because of her looks. But anyway, then now on TikTok, you have a bunch of younger people saying, oh, all light-skinned girls, they think that they cute. Light-skinned girls are always saying that people hated on them because they was pretty with long hair, blah, blah, blah. And it's like black people repeat this notion over and over and over again, but they never talk about how even when Glorilla was coming out, it was a lot of black men dragging her looks also, and black women laughing about how she looked also. I remember she was arguing with JT, and JT was calling her ugly. So it was like, you know what I mean? Like, they never talk about that stuff. They never talk about how they treated Tiny, but they could, antagonize imaginary light-skinned women on TikTok that don't even exist. And it's like, if there's all these conceited ass light-skinned chicks who swear that everybody hated on us because we was pretty with long hair, okay, why don't y'all never find the videos? You never see them on TikTok. You never see no receipts. You never see no tweets. You never see none of that. And then even when you do, let's be real here, it's 90% of the time it's in response to people antagonizing them. You know what I mean? So it's like, if there's so much of that, then why also are we seeing this epidemic of everybody getting plastic surgery also? You know what I mean? To look a certain way. And they're not getting plastic surgery to look like light-skinned black women or to look like Tiny or Glorilla. They're getting plastic surgery to look like whole other groups. So let's be real here. If there was so much pride in light-skinned blackness and so much, love for blackness simply on light skin, then you wouldn't see black women of all shades, drastically changing their appearances a lot, and y'all still drag them, and it's like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But yeah, I remember when Ice Spice came out, and there were people laughing at her, also saying that she looked like she had Down syndrome. So, I mean, I'm not super sensitive. It's like, whatever, like, y'all want to laugh at people's looks, that'll come back to you. Somebody probably gonna laugh at your kids being ugly or something one day. So it's like, it is what it is. I feel like people's karma will get to them. But I do think that is interesting, and I feel like the reason why light-skinned women like Ice Spice or Glorilla or Tiny would be made fun of because of their looks is because, weirdly, black people have made this association that light skin automatically equals above average attractive, and then they project that onto light skinned people and take that out on us in shade or anger, or hold those people to that standard, then say, oh, I didn't expect you to have that type of hair texture. Oh, you a waste of light skin because you got those black features or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But I've been trying to stress this whole time on my channel that this stuff is perpetuated by the culture. It's not perpetuated socially. It's not perpetuated by white people and they are like elevating like light-skinned black people with big noses. That's not what's happening. They're going towards who is getting the streams and who people are paying attention to. And I do think that there's an element of people being color struck when it comes to entertainers. I've already mentioned that before. But at the same time, the reason why people that are considered the median or around the way girl look will get dragged for their looks is because, yeah, they don't value an average looking black woman, even if she, you know, is light skinned or whatever. You know what I mean? I remember them dragging JT also when she first came out. Those are pretty much the only people I remember. But I'm just making a point. Like I noticed that with all of the girls that they come at because of their looks, especially if they're light skinned, they're the ones that look like the typical girl that you would just see, you know, in your neighborhood or you grew up with in your family, whatever. And so there's just a pattern of them dragging women who I feel like are the average or the median or what's typical. They don't like what's typical. You need to be spectacular in order to be tolerated, in order for people to feel like you're worthy enough for what you're getting or for this attention or for their support. And you see them having this attitude towards both brown skin and dark skin women, and they also have it towards light skin women also. And that's where all of these accusations of light skin privilege and mediocre light skin and you not light skin, you just cute, and you know you have no talent, you just pretty, you know, whatever it is type of thing. It's always a way to discredit or, you know, diminish what you're doing or say you're not really deserving. And it's the same thing with the statue. It was a whole bunch of takes just on why the statue does not deserve to just simply exist in Times Square. There's a million takes about why Ice Spice should not have existed in hip hop. You know what I mean? And or why Sexy Red simply existing is now harming all black women. You know what I mean? Like there's all of these takes about how one random black woman is harming people, and it's just weird. So how was one random representation of a black woman harmful, but black men leaving 4 homes unattended, that's not harmful to more black people than Ice Spice and Sexy Red? Like it's so disproportionate and nonsensical.